Hey, what's up? This is Seth Green, and you are listening to Somewhere in Vegas with Mark, and I am so hot, I would desperately like a glass of water. Please, please, give me some water.
This is Cindy Preston, and I'm with Mark on Somewhere in Vegas.
Hi, this is Melissa Peterman from CMT's The Singing Bee and the television show Reba. And I have to tell you, I just have to get it off my chest, I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi there. This is Faith Roscoe from General Hospital. You're listening to Mark on Somewhere in Vegas. And you better watch out. We know how to find you if you're not listening.
Hi, this is Shannon Egan from Whippet, and I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hey, this is Lee Allen Baker with Somewhere in Vegas, talking with Mark with a Q.
This is Courtney Cronin. You're listening to Somewhere in Vegas with your host, Mark, and I would make sure to listen every week because he's a sure bet.
Hey, this is the Money Man, Eddie Money. I got 2 tickets to Paradise, and it's, you know what? It's Somewhere in Vegas. And what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Hi, this is Crystal Gale, and I love Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi, this is Terry Nunn from Berlin, and you're listening to Mark Somewhere in Vegas.
Hi, this is Miracle Laurie from Joss Whedon's Dollhouse. There are 3 flowers in a vase, and I'm listening to Somewhere in Vegas with Mark.
Hi, this is Erin Hill, and you are listening to Mark on Blog Talk Radio and Somewhere in Vegas. Mark is a great guy.
Hi, this is Sean Pulaski. I'm still trying to figure out Mark Pico's sexuality, but I know you're listening to Somewhere Live in Vegas.
Here you go, Mark. I'm sorry. I thought you were she. I'm sorry. Get out of the tent. Let's get out of here.
Hey, this is Lance and Anna from Free Radio. And Anna?
And you're listening to Somewhere in Vegas.
Yes.
My favorite.
You know, that's usually what happens with me. I go to Vegas and I get lost, and so I end up somewhere in Vegas.
Somewhere in Vegas.
But I just don't know where it is.
Not quite sure.
Yeah, word.
Get ready. It's going to be hot. It's in Vegas. Check out Mark. Be there or be square.
Welcome, everybody, to Somewhere in Vegas here on our home, Spreaker.com, also on iHeartRadio.com. I'm Mark the Q. I'm your host. We decided to dive back in the archives again this week, and this time we're going to be going back about 10 years to 2010 with my interview with Heather Langenkamp. For those of you who do not know who that is, she is the star of the first and third Nightmare on Elm Street films, and she also helped do a documentary about the Nightmare on Elm Street films as well back then. It's still available if you guys ever want to check it out. It talks a lot about the behind-the-scenes stuff. As we do in this podcast, we talk a little bit about the behind-the-scenes things that happened with Heather. We also talked a little bit about her acting career and her husband, who is a special effects artist as well. So we talk a lot about special effects, and we also do take a couple callers as well. So this is out to my friends over at the Quad M Show podcast who had mentioned Heather in their last podcast, and I figured I'd repost this one so they get the opportunity to be able to hear this interview as well. And of course, several of my friends are huge horror buffs, so I'm pretty sure they're interested in listening to this as well. So enjoy this podcast with Heather Langenkamp and her husband talking a little bit about the Nightmare on Elm Street series, as well as some of the special effects that they've done over the past couple of years. Check it out.
I got a really cool guest on last week. I got a really good, cool contact. Said, "Hey, would you like Heather Langenkamp on your show?" I said, "Yes, I would love her on the show." Her and Tom Hudson are both producing this great documentary about the Nightmare on Elm Street series to kind of coincide with the Nightmare on Elm Street remake that's coming out this coming Friday. So it's really great to be able to have them on the show. Heather, I've been a huge fan of Heather's for quite a while now. So let's see if we can't get them on the line here real quick. Let's see here. Hold on one second, guys. You here, Heather?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, cool. I think Tommy, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Oh, hello, Tommy Hudson and Heather Langenkamp. You may remember Heather from the original Nightmare on Elm Street and Nightmare on Elm Street 3. And Tommy is also the producer of this documentary as well. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having us. And you forgot to mention Nightmare on Elm Street Part 7, too.
Oh, that's right. You were in Part 7.
How can you forget? Oh, my God.
How can I forget that, Heather? I also want to mention, before we get started, I want to mention, Heather, that I was also a huge fan of yours on Just a Ton of Us. I love that show.
Oh, I know. I love that show because I played such a pure soul of Marie. I know. Everybody likes her so much.
It was a gigantic stretch for her, let me tell you.
No, but we got to sing and dance. That was the most fun part of that whole show, was having to, we got to pretend like we were, I don't know, like superstar singers for, a couple weeks. It was great.
Well, there was quite a few. Yeah, there was quite a few women on the show. I mean, what was it? There must have been like 5 or 6 women on the show. And of course, Brooke Treese was on it, and she again is another former Nightmare on Elm Street actress. So
yeah, Brooke was an actress, and so was Joanne Willette. She was in Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, so that we bonded over that immediately, of course.
No, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, it's kind of almost like a sorority for a lot of you actresses out there to be able to say that you've been in the series, and especially between yourself, Lisa Wilcox, and Patricia Arquette were the only 3 females to ever survive a Nightmare on Elm Street. So that's definitely something really interesting.
I'd say we're more like a secret society rather than a sorority. We know all the secrets of Freddy. We know all the deep, dark secrets, and we're never going to let them out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let me start out by asking you guys a little bit about, why has the series had so much staying power, do you think, in pop culture?
Well, Tommy, you want to answer that?
Yeah. We get this question a lot, and I think, the answer is the same, and I really believe it's because of what Wes did when he created the first film. I think he created something that was so ingenious and interesting and terrifying, and it really struck a nerve with everyone who was a moviegoer, because I think he took that last safe place away from everyone, which was, going under your covers to protect yourself from the monster, and doing that in his movie really didn't protect you at all. So I think what he did was he found that last frontier of terror and exploited it in such a clever way that I think it'll last forever.
But I also have to say that I think the reason that it's lasted so long is because of Robert Englund. I think that there's not that many actors out there who could have taken a role and been so committed to it for so many years, and each time took Freddy and actually kind of changed him enough to make people want to see him the next time and the next time and the next time. Because he never was really the same Freddy in every movie. He sometimes is funnier and often more evil and more demented. And I think that consistency over the 8 movies, and also his commitment, really, you just don't have many movies, if any, who had the same star in 8 of them.
No, you're right. And, you touched on something really interesting is there was an evolution to that character, but it was at the same time changing, yet it was still consistent. And even, you, Heather, you are a through line through the first 7 movies, even if you weren't in a couple of them. And I think most horror franchises tend to not tell that big overarching story. They kind of just jump around. But Nightmare on Elm Street really told that one story, starting with the Elm Street kids, and I think they carried it, I guess as far as they could go, but it was a story that was really interesting in the way it was told.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the evolution, because they did talk, about how kind of almost menacing he was in the first film, and then he did kind of get silly at points, but, kind of that scary silly. And I guess the evolution also of the nightmares. I mean, originally it was just, basically he would slash kids or whatever, but I think eventually coming down the line, it became a lot more inventive of how he killed people.
Yeah, I think let me just talk about the first one, and then, Tommy, you talk about the later ones, because in the first one it was really simple. I think the dreams of the kids and the way they got killed, really, it was just a much more simple psychological story, and it didn't feel it needed to kind of entertain and kind of keep people in the theater, keep coming back. And I think as the movies progressed, we became a more sophisticated audience. We became more demanding of Freddy, and so they kind of lived up to those demands, I feel like.
No, you're right, and absolutely, I think that the first film, as you said, it was far more terrifying, far more psychological. The later movies, it was, the effects got to be more grand, the kills got to be more spectacular. It wasn't just, let's get Tina, let's chase Nancy. It was, let's turn the girl into a cockroach. So I think that as the series went on, they were like, how can we top the last one? And I think every movie after the first one more and more became really, I think, a roller coaster ride. Let's take them on those ups and downs and have a lot of fun.
And we can't forget to mention, and you see this in the documentary, is that special effects and CGI were actually developing at the same time that these movies were getting sequelized. The sequels kept coming, and with each sequel, you could see CGI and special effects take leaps and bounds. I know, like, when I did Nightmare 3, I was just amazed at all the special effects that we were using when we hadn't used any special effects in Nightmare 1 in terms of artificial visual effects. It was all practical. And then by Nightmare 7, there was whole elements of that were all computer generated. So, that's also why things got more spectacular, because computers came into it.
Yeah, and
go ahead, Dom.
I was just going to say, we touch on a lot of that in the documentary, and you really do see the evolution of the effects. And, Heather bringing up part 3, we kind of really examine for a brief time at the documentary, the Freddy snake scene in part 3. That was real. I mean, that snake creature was there in the room with Heather and Patricia Arquette. It was spitting an actress out of it, and that doesn't happen today. So I think the dawn of the amazing, incredible special effects really hit its stride and was really showcased with the Nightmare films.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, I admit that really my favorite movie of the franchise was 4, but 3 would have to be my second favorite. And, that was right about the time where, we had that CGI, and we had that nice balance between the CGI stuff and the, and the more creative kind of depths in the day. Because I do have a little special place in my heart for 1, but, it's like at that point, the creative juices were flowing, the technology was there, and it kind of gave us into that. And that kind of leads me into the newer one, because the newer one right now does have a lot more of those advantages. Since, it's been 30 years since the original Nightmare on Elm Street, and the effects have become so much better, and things can be done a lot more. Can you kind of explain a little bit about that, how that evolution has really kind of full circle?
Ironically, the thing that really makes me stop and think is that even though all of the effects are so advanced right now, my one thing that I can't wait to see is actually Freddy's makeup, because to me, that was always the most frightening part, is when you first saw Freddy, he was always slightly different. We had different makeup artists throughout the 8 movies do his makeup, so everybody had a little design change here or a new notion here of how he should look. And so I think the fans on this reboot are going to be very interested to see exactly what Freddy looks like, and that is practical. That's done by, sculptors and makeup artists, and that's the least technologically advanced thing about the movie, really. And then how the kids are killed and all their dreams, that's kind of secondary to me. I'm kind of interested in seeing Freddy.
I wanted to mention also that I've seen the trailer, and I've seen a lot of stuff about the new movie, and they do integrate a lot of the old scenes from not just the original, but a lot of the other Nightmare on Elm Street films. A lot of the nightmares are coming back into this movie, so you get to see some of the nightmares kind of silently changed, but you'll be able to kind of recognize it if you're a true fan, or even if you're a new fan. A lot of this new generation aren't familiar with the series, so once they go in, these 16-year-olds that aren't familiar with the series or the original version may be able to get a little spice of what the old series was like, and maybe they might even become interested in actually watching the old ones.
That's why people need to get the documentary.
They need to get the documentary. Let me put it that way. Let's definitely get the documentary. See how this series is involved.
If they want to really appreciate some of the just why Freddy is the way he is, the documentary has such a great interview with Robert Englund, and he talks about stuff that, I think anybody, no matter whether they're a true fan or just getting into the series for the first time, they're going to, really dig some of the things he says and what Wes Craven says and some of the people who have, acted in the movies before. And it's such a cool documentary, and it's long, and it has so much to, talk about, because it's been 25 years, not 30, but that's still a long time.
Well, and I think the thing is, the moments that you're talking about in the new movie, those iconic moments, obviously the bathtub and the girl, being thrown around on the ceiling, the interesting thing is those are the big iconic moments from the first movie, and to see them in the new movie is, it's interesting to see what fans will think of that. But in the documentary, we talk about those iconic moments. So actually, if you're a fan of